What's going on, guys? Welcome to Rabbit's Used Cars. You know, I love Corvettes of all generations, 1 through even 8, if it'll ever come in. Don't even get me started. Damn pandemic. But anyway, we got this little C2 Corvette in a few months back, and it's been sitting at my other shop. And I said, you know what? I want to get this thing out and cruising around. We had a blast driving around. Just got to open it up a little bit. Side pipes, 350 horse small block under the hood, 4-speed transmission. This one's a 1964. Mid-years have always been those popular vets, 63 through 67. But what makes this one really cool, it's just kind of resto modded a little bit. 64, keep in mind, had drum brakes all the way around. This car is equipped with wheel woods on all 4 corners. So that's really nice, a nice upgrade. They kept it pretty stock under the hood. A 350 horse, 327. You know, of course, got a little Muncie 4-speed, somebody stuck in it, which is always nice. Another thing that I really like about the car is they did some updates to it. If you'll notice, the hood. Well, Rob, they didn't have that hood in 64. Well, you're correct. That's a 1967 hood, and along with the 1967 sunburst wheels that are on it. At a glance, or to the unknown eye, it does appear to be a 1967 Corvette Coupe, which is a little bit more desirable car. There's nothing wrong with 64, just 67 was always that red letter year for these cars. Dead giveaways that it's not a 67. Of course, the side gills are wrong on it, on a 64 side gill still. And it doesn't have a reverse light, which was the first year in Corvettes with reverse lights in 1967. A really neat car, though, a fun car. I love the red line tires, white, red leather guts, like it's bleeding to death on the inside. And that's always fun. But, you know, like I said, you know, we got a million Corvette stories. My dad has a true big block 67 Corvette sitting at home. But, you know, and this one, like I said, is just as fun as that $100,000 vet, you know. But these are fun cars, but, you know, speaking about Dad and all of that, reminds me of a story. It doesn't even involve a C2 Corvette, but it involves actually 2 C3 Corvettes. I say this as I'm looking at my 68 C3 covered in dust behind the camera. But anyway, my dad always had a Corvette growing up. You know, you got to think from little itty bitty bunny all the way up to Big Rabbit. My dad's always had a Corvette. Always. I've never known him to go more than a month without owning a Corvette in his life. So through the years, he's had different, you know, C4, C5, C6s, 7s, you know, and then, of course, back in the day, he had C3s, and of course, he's had numerous C2s over the years. My dad always liked the C3s like I did. They were fun cars. Now, keep in mind, this was late 80s. I was, you know, 10, you know, and my dad bought probably one of the nicest C3 Corvettes I've ever seen, original cars in my life. Even then, I mean, the car wasn't even too old. It was about 10 years old. It was a 1980 C3 Vet, white L82, but it had like this burnt orange leather interior in it. And the cool part's where the car came from. It was actually bought new from a professor at Clemson University. That's right. National champions, go Tigers. And just right down the street. And the guy drove it all the way up to, you know, right when my father bought it. The car was extremely low miles, extremely clean, and it was white with this almost orange, really, interior in it. So it was really different. It was a real pretty vet, had the aluminum 15-inch wheels in it. And, you know, the big thing back then, what everybody did, those wheels kind of had they weren't really polished. They were almost kind of like a brushed, kind of like these, kind of a brushed machine finish. And I remember we pulled the wheels off of it, you know, had the white letter, you know, Goodyears on it. And we took and sanded the wheels down and polished the wheels. So they just were like mirrors. And you had this deep dish wheel that was just polished and just really popped on the white car. Like I said, the orange guts. And the car actually had mirrored T-tops on it too. So it was actually a really pretty vet. And those polished wheels just really made it pop. And of course the Goodyear white letters on it. And just a neat car and riding around in it. You know, and so on Sunday afternoons, on days like today, you know, me and my dad would go goofing off. I'd go riding around with my dad, and, you know, we'd go see his buddies or just go ride and check on the shop or check on the car lot or whatever we was doing at the time, and just cruising around, just father-son time, you know, and we really didn't even talk that much. Yeah, we just cruised. And keep in mind, I was a little kid. I was 10. I'm sitting to see this Corvette, and we got the T-tops out and the windows down and some god-awful 80s song playing in the background. We're riding down a road called 291 or North Pleasantburg Drive, right here in Greenville, South Carolina, just right down the street. We're riding down the road, and I'm really not paying any attention. I'm just looking around, you know, here I go again on my own. Just riding with my dad in a Corvette on a beautiful, sunny Sunday afternoon. Something that was funny about my dad, and keeping my dad, I guess by trade is a mechanic, you know, and like any other mechanic, like his vehicles look perfect, but you know, like little things didn't bother him on cars like most people would. That brake light would come on the dash. And of course, me being a 10-year-old aggravating kid, I would ask my dad, why's that light on? Oh, it's nothing, master cylinder's leaking down just a little bit. It's fine, you know, and you know, it probably is fine unless you had to make an emergency stop. That means if the master cylinder is bypassing like that, odds are it's not going to stop that fast. You know, it'll still come to a stop, but it's not right by any stretch. But he was just cruising around. And we're cruising around this van. Like I said, we're riding down 291 North Pleasantburg Drive, not paying any attention. I'm not paying attention to anything. My dad's just cruising. Next thing you know, we roll up to a red light and run right into the back of a Ford Fairmont station wagon. Right at this intersection on 291. And at this intersection, there's a little gas station and like a little strip mall. We turned in there, and it didn't even make a mark on the Fairmont station wagon, on the big metal bumper on the back. We were running 10 miles an hour when we hit it. And it just rolled the nose up, just like that rubber nose on the vet, just kind of rolled it up just a little bit and made a couple little creases in the paint. You know, just not to make you sick, because the car's perfect. Didn't call the cops out, didn't say anything. Well, you know, I told Dad, I said, probably should have fixed that light. You wouldn't have had that problem. And of course, some cuss words later, you know, he got over that. We ended up fixing the car. Now, fast forward 15 years later, you know, you hear me tell the story about my buddy Pegleg. You know, I don't have kids, but Pegleg was kind of like my kid at the time because he was only like 4'11". So he's kind of short. We're riding around in my tricked out 1980 Corvette, the all flared out one. I'll never forget, we're all going out. It was a gorgeous sunny day on the weekend. I don't remember if it was a Saturday or Sunday. You know, we're riding around. I pull up in front of his house, and I seen that light come on the dash. And I noticed the pedal felt a little soft a couple times coming over to his house in it. The brake pedal did. And then next thing you know, that red light comes on the dash, just like, you know, 15 years later on my dad's vet. You know what? Didn't think nothing about it. Be all right. I got this. Now I know where my dad gets it from. Pegleg jumps in the car. We go out riding. Had a date that night. This is a Saturday night. I had a date that night. I do remember. It was actually the very first date I went out with a certain girl. Now, leave that alone. But anyway, so we're riding around, top down on the vet, having a blast. You know, just cruising around. What do? Well, we're riding down 291 North Pleasantburg Drive. A Ford Freestyle station wagon locks up brakes right in front of me. I hit the brakes. Hit it right in the back with my C3 Corvette. Within feet of where my dad hit that other Corvette 15 years earlier. We pull into the same gas station. I get out of my C3 Corvette. And my Corvette was a little different from his because mine had that big spoiler that came off the front, the big body kit on it. And it actually cracked. It made a line, and it just cracked down the body kit about that far. But me being a car guy, I mean, might as well knock the damn front end off of it. I mean, I was just sick. And like I said, it made like a little mark on that lady's car. And she was like, oh my God, I killed your Corvette and all this. And we didn't even, like I said, we didn't even call the cops. I gave her my insurance information just in case she needed it. You know, whatever. I mean, it's just like at the time, I'm just thinking how crazy, in the same place, same problem, same car, all this stuff. Well, I went on a date that evening in that vet, still with the master cylinder, still, I mean, just watching my brakes a little bit, you know. I might have checked the fluid in it, but other than that, went out there that night. Hell, we ended up at a little cruise in. And, you know, of course, everybody's walking by this big flared out vet on 20-inch wheels, and this thing just sticks out everywhere it went. And, You know, it's just so tacky, you couldn't just stop and look at it, you know, just screamed, hey, I got a little dick, you know, but I love that car. And it was just like, you know, people were walking past it, and I'm like over here, like making excuses for the spoiler that's cracked on front. Most people didn't even notice it. That's how minute the crack was. The funny part to the story was the lady called State Farm, my insurance company, and said that she was involved in an accident with me, and she wanted to make sure my car got fixed. Not to make a claim. I wasn't even going to call that in because I was at fault. Well, I had collector car insurance on my vet. This is where the story gets really interesting. By this time, me and Dad are laughing it up, talking about how the wreck happened in the same spot his did, yada, yada, yada. He called me a dumbass, just like normal and whatever. Well, I get a phone call from my agent. He goes, hey, I heard you were in a wreck in the vet. Is everything all right? I said, yeah, it's fine. I said, just crack the spoiler on it. You know, it's not that big of a deal. I said, I'll fix it myself. He goes, well, you know, that's why you got insurance. I said, well, hell, send an adjuster by. Why not? So a couple days later, the adjuster comes by the house to look at the vet, and I back it out of the garage. And he goes, man, this is a bad ride. I said, thank you, you know, and he looks at the spoiler, and of course he gets his crash books out. And now all this stuff's online, but back in the day, kids, we had these things called crash books. And basically it was like a phone book, but with every body part. And they were like encyclopedias, they had them for Chevrolets and Fords and the foreign cars and whatnot. And basically you could break down body panels and your part numbers and wholesale pricing and all that stuff were in these books, and they got updated every year. And well, obviously for a 1980 Corvette, you're not gonna look up a damn Greenwood body kit in a crash book. You know, they quit making it, you know, 10 years earlier, you know? And he goes, I can't find these parts for this thing anywhere, you know? And of course it was all molded in. And he goes, you know, I don't know how I can, you know, appraise this. And I said, well, I can pull you up some prices online. So I found a full Greenwood body kit, and it was like $4,800 for the body kit. And of course, that's not painted or primed or installed, and all this is molded into the car. He goes back and forth, and he starts crunching numbers. And I mean, you know, if he wrote me a check for $1,000, I'd have been shocked. You know how most insurance companies work. Well, this guy gets back in his little van. He had his little chair in there, his little desk, and he was working on his laptop that was like this thick, and you know, all this stuff. I'm just over here wiping on my vet. Hell, fix to go back on hot date number 2. You know, and I mean, no big deal at all. He comes out after I showed him that body kit online. He comes out and he prints me a check on the spot for $12,000. I lied to his shit. I didn't have $12,000 in the damn car for this little crack. And he goes, you know, the way I look at it on a car like this, you know, we're going to have to respray the whole car to ever make it look right. And this and this and this. And I left just a little bit in there just for incidentals. And if it's not enough, you just let me know. And I said, oh, will do, sir. Okay. I mean, I couldn't get out of there fast enough with this check. Needless to say, we did fix a spoiler on the vet. I got my buddy to fix it for me overnight, and he charged me $200, and I kept driving it after that. But the way I look at it, as much money as I paid it in insurance, it evens out over the years. But that was the one time I actually did win against the insurance company. But it blew my mind. And I love that old red vet. You know, there's so many stories tied with these cars like that. You know, like if you go back to the very first video we did on this one, it's talking about the Heartbreak Corvette and how that car, where it went, it caused heartbreak. It might have caused heartbreak, but it'd make old daddy $1 every once in a while. And it always made the perfect hot date car. Just didn't do good with the married ones. Guys, we'll catch you next time at Rabbit's Used Cars. Talking about a Corvette with good brakes like this one's got, I got a good story about a Corvette, actually 2 that didn't have good brakes. And then you can just throw that in there. Guys, be sure to visit trailermod.com for all your trailer parts needs. Be sure to use promo code RABBIT15 for 15% off your order.